Hi everyone, Luna here. I hope you're having a great day. I just wanted to get my thoughts about Dragon Age 4 and EA Play down in one video because if you follow me on Twitter, you've probably been bombarded by me today. We've been very busy retweeting, posting screenshots. It's been about 4 hours since the stream ended, and I spent a lot of that time looking over what we were shown, discussing theories with other fans, thinking about how the screenshots support my own existing theories, plus any new theories. In case you missed the stream, and if you did, I recommend you go and watch it. Dragon Age fans were shown 3 really short scenic shots during a compilation of clips that were demonstrating what EA games will look like on next-gen consoles. And shortly after the stream finished, it kind of became a meme on Twitter that Dragon Age YouTubers would create hours of videos as a result, dissecting these screenshots with meticulous detail. And now I'm here, so self-fulfilling prophecy. I actually haven't got any of my DA4 theories in one place, so this video was on my to-do list for some time anyway. So I'm hoping that the screenshots we were provided today might just supplement my existing theories. So this video isn't just about what we saw today at EA Play, it's more generally what I'm expecting out of DA4, and then what the screenshots we have could mean for those theories. So here are the screenshots. One is showing a big tree, one is showing a big arch, and one is showing a big red crystal. That's about as simple as it gets. On the first one, we're looking at a tree in sort of a gloomy wood. Scattered around it are urns. It looked like urns anyway, urns or jars. And some of these urns have skulls on the top. Some of them have familiar Ferelden looking carving on them. And I think someone on Twitter found in the art book for Inquisition a very similar, if not the exact same, stone carving. It didn't say where it was from, it didn't say what it meant, it just said that there were such artworks depicted on stonework across Thedas. So we've got these urns. On the far right of the screenshot is what looks like an old tree, and it's got a lantern hanging down from it. And I think the lantern looks like it could be slightly green, potentially veil fire, but it could just be sort of the gloomy, moody atmosphere that's making it look green. But I think it maybe could be veil fire. More generally looking at the scene, we can see snow on the ground, we can see a dirt road, we can see a brick wall. It's looking very Ferelden, it's looking very snowy, it's looking very Frostback Mountains. It doesn't look like we're going far west. It doesn't look like how I picture Tevinter to look like. It doesn't look like the Underfells. It doesn't look like Orlais. It looks Ferelden. When you look at this screenshot, the first thing your eye is drawn to is this massive tree. And to me, it reminds me of the Venedal, the big trees that you find in elven alienages in the larger cities. Yeah, I mean, it could be a coincidence, but I don't think we see trees that look this big and this old in Dragon Age games that aren't in the elven spaces. So I wonder if this is the elven tree. And another interesting thing that we spotted, when I say we, I mean a lot of us on Twitter, is if we look at the mural that we got for the Dreadwolf Rises, Solus, we assume, being the character, stood in front of the Dreadwolf. He looks like he's protecting a tree. And this tree is not dissimilar to the tree that we've seen in this screenshot. It would be interesting if Solus was protecting what I regard to be a symbol of elven culture and beliefs in these trees. And one of the more interesting theories I had, in the mural, it seems like the tree is a Venedal representing elven culture, and Solus is protecting it from the Dreadwolf. we're told that Solus and the Dreadwolf are the same thing, but I wonder, is the Dreadwolf perhaps a blighted Fen'Harel? There are such things as blighted wolves in the Dragon Age universe, and some characters, I'm sure, refer to the Blight as the dreaded Blight. And I couldn't help but wonder, looking at the same tree in the screenshot, it looks like the Blight hasn't quite reached it yet. We haven't got the sort of red lyrium symbols that we've got in the other screenshots. I wonder, does Solus release the Blight, or is there something that happens with Red Lyrium and we help him to defeat the Dreadwolf? I mean, if the Dreadwolf is a blighted Fen'Harel, we could be looking at sort of an Anders Justice style relationship between Fen'Harel and the Dreadwolf, and perhaps this might not just be an internal struggle. Perhaps they are two separate entities, and we've got mortal Solus, who is a very powerful mage, but a mortal nonetheless, fighting the Dreadwolf. And perhaps our protagonist in Dragon Age 4 helps Solus with this fight with the Dreadwolf. It's an interesting theory, for sure. I think most people accept that Solus is the Dreadwolf. However, I wonder if we could see the two entities separate in Dragon Age 4 if they haven't been separate all this time. And in the same way that, in other areas of fantasy, such as Star Wars, you have a dark and a light side. I wonder if we've got Fen'Harel, Solus, as the light entity, and the blighted Fen'Harel, Dreadwolf, on the other side. And it will be a clash of the two. But that's one interesting theory that some people came up with, just looking at the comparison between the mural and the screenshot of the tree we've got. The mural itself is super interesting, and I'll go into it a bit more detail later, but I think it's very interesting that we've got this mural with this, bare, blackened ash tree behind Solus, and then in today's screenshots, we got a big black tree, with embers and snow and ash sort of floating around across the scene. But I'll go into that a bit more later. But this is an interesting idea, that this tree is in fact a Venedal, and what that might mean for the elves. Okay, if we move on to the next screenshot, and we are looking at an archway. At least it looks like an archway. It could be a doorway, a building. It looks like it's got perhaps a roof at the top, so I don't think it's a standalone sort of brick wall. I think it was a structure at one time. And the archway has got red lyrium protruding out of it in different places. It's also got, I don't know if it looks like vines, like undergrowth, and I think there is a plant species in Dragon Age that only grows where things have died, and it kind of reminds me of that. I'm annoyed that I haven't written down the name anywhere, but that's how I roll. And anyway, so this sort of weird looking root vine plant is all over this scene. We can see it down here on what looks like urns or gatlock barrels perhaps, intertwining around them, and then it's also creeping up the building where the red lyrium is. And this building, we can see a roof, the moonlight is shining through, but the roof looks like it's maybe damaged by fire or something, or just collapsed. We can see sort of the wooden beams going across from top to bottom. So as I was editing this video, I was browsing Twitter, as I do, and this tweet came up on my feed from Ash. She's at Lady Insanity on Twitter, and it's a screenshot of this archway. But what they've done is they've increased the brightness, the exposure, and reduced the shadows so that we can more clearly see the things that I said I thought might be gatlock barrels or urns flanking this main arch, and then also it's sort of in the distance near where the red lyrium is on the building in the middle ground. And what's really interesting about these screenshots is Ash says they look like meat bags, and I totally agree. This looks like corrupted flesh. This looks like Broodmother a la Origins flesh. It's still got what looks to be like the philanderis sort of intertwining around the meat bags, I suppose we can call them. But yeah, unmistakably, I would say that is corrupted flesh. I think that's symptoms of a blight. And not only are they flanking us in this building that our perspective is from, but they're also climbing up the building in the middle ground, just under where the lyrium is. So forgive the interruption. I didn't want to wait to leave this for another video because I think this is really interesting and I wanted you to see it. And what's slightly odd about this is that this building looks like it is by itself, like it's not flanked by anything. There seems to be a stone wall at the back of it, so I can't help but wonder, what was this building before this was a ruin? The building we seem stood in looks bigger. It looks like it might have had at one point a small courtyard or something. It actually reminds me of where we have that last battle in Trespasser, before we enter the final set of Alluvion. I seem to remember a balcony, and you have to walk up some stairs after defeating the main boss. It kind of gives me those vibes. But I think primarily what I take from this screenshot is these buildings are Ferelden. I think we all thought we were going to be going to Tevinter in Dragon Age 4, and I think that that's still true. However, this looks Ferelden. Certainly, looking at the background, we're looking at quite a big keep or castle, and many people initially speculated that this would be Skyhold, and indeed it does resemble Skyhold, and this archway in particular resembles the front facade of Skyhold's main keep. However, I don't see any mountains. I don't see enough snow. Skyhold is surrounded by mountains. It takes, I think in Tevinter Night we were told, a week to get there on foot from the nearest settlement. And I don't remember Skyhold having quite so many buildings surrounding it, and certainly no sort of short brick walls like we see in the middle ground. So although it's very similar in architectural style to Skyhold, I don't think that it is Skyhold. I actually think this resembles more closely Redcliffe Castle is one. I would say this looks very much like Redcliffe Castle for sure. It also resembles to me Therinfall Redoubt. My next suspicion after Redcliffe Castle and Therinfall Redoubt was Ferelden Castle. I can't remember the last time we saw Ferelden Castle in a game. I think it's like a ruin now, but it's kind of got the similar looking walls at the top of the towers, similar small windows, things like that. Again, it resembles the mercenary fortress in the hinterlands, just in terms of how it looks in terms of style, especially the battlements at the top. And I think it also looks like Caer Bronach 2. So I think, to sort of get to a point, I think the building in the background is without doubt Ferelden. And what it means to me is that the Blight, or at least Red Lyrium, has been released. It's out, and it's in Ferelden, and it's on the buildings that at the time of Dragon Age Inquisition were not blighted, that were intact. This is a worry. Something has happened with Red Lyrium, and it's covering the land. It's absorbing, it's eating away, like we know the Blight does. In addition to the building architecture, which, as I say, I think is Ferelden, we've got what looks like snow on the ground, particularly right at the bottom of the picture. We've got what looks like wooden floorboards, and then looks like thawing snow or light snowfall. So I wouldn't have said this was too far north of Ferelden. So I think we're again staying south, staying around the hinterlands area, the Redcliffe area, where it could still be snowy. What I would also say is that this looks like a lake or something. I mean, it's definitely reflective. When I first saw it, I thought we were looking at snow. But now, as I'm editing this video and I'm sort of zooming in all the time on these images, that looks like water. And it looks like, it reminds me of the fallow mire. It's got like the weeds growing out of the water. And I find this really interesting. I'm just trying to think of where this could be. I'm not sure where matches this kind of look. Again, the only thing I can think of is the fallow mire. But that was such a non-location in Dragon Age Inquisition that I can't understand why they would go back to that. But who knows, perhaps this is the fortress, the keep that we visit in the Falemaya. Who knows? The one that caused the most excitement amongst the fans, I think, and it's definitely the one I've seen circulated the most of all three, just because of what it shows and how unclear that is. So in this picture we've got definitely Red Lyrium. I mean, when I first saw it, I thought this looked like something out of, like a Mass Effect or Halo game. This looks alien. It doesn't look like the Red Lyrium we're used to seeing in its sort of rock form. This looks organic. This looks like almost like deep mushrooms, actually, in Dragon Age games, but red, which I find really interesting. And the Red Lyrium, well, I'll be calling Red Lyrium, it's sort of all over this building. And it was once a building. We've got some stairs at the bottom of the picture. We've got, just at the top, we've got the remnants of a wall with some windows. And on the far right corner, we've got, again, another wall, more intact this time. And this is a really interesting screenshot. And in the middle of the animated version of this massive mass of black goo and red lyrium is pulsing. It looks like a heart. It's glowing. It's got its own light source and it's pulsing, which was really strange. And there's been a few theories about what that is and what it means. So when I first saw this screenshot, the first thing I thought of was the Guardian in The Descent. When you travel down through the Titan and you reach what I think is its heart, you fight the Guardian, and it's sort of a rock creature that is kept together with strands that look like veins or arteries of blue lyrium. And what I thought when I saw this screenshot for the first time is that it looks like a rock monster being held together by lyrium, but this is being held by red lyrium, not blue. So this is the first thing I thought when I saw that. I thought the Titans, I thought the Guardian. I also thought of the icon, the tarot card for Hawk that we're provided. I think it's in the Codex for Dragon Age Inquisition. And I've always wondered what it is, because to me it looks kind of strange. We've got a map of Kirkwall as we know it from Dragon Age 2 at the top. And then we've got what looks like a claw. I mean, I've never have been sure what it is. It looks like a claw facing down towards the ground. And like a red vein. Which I guess looks like a smiley face, but I don't know if that's intentional. And when I first saw this, I also thought that resembled the shape we've got in this screenshot. We've got sort of a round top and what looks like a claw pointing down. And some people have said that even the tip right at the bottom of this form looks like it could be fingers or hands. And so that's where I got my sort of claw imagery from. Another super interesting theory that I saw, and I saw it, and at first I hadn't seen it in this screenshot, and it took someone actually posting a GIF of a sort of overlay of what it would look like. This looks like it could be a person, and I'll post what the GIF looked like so that you can see. But this was really interesting to me, and actually it reminded me of a theory I had sort of a few weeks ago, and I think it actually might even supplement that theory. So go on a bit of a tangent about what my theory is, and I'm not usually one to theory craft games. Like, I don't have imagination, I don't know much about the lore. I mean, I've read all the books, but I haven't got a very good memory, so I tend to avoid crafting theories because I'm usually really wrong and totally off base. But I posted this one, I think a few weeks ago, and no one's really called me out on it so far, so I think it's not terrible. So I guess I posted it on Twitter, and I'll put a link in the description if you want to read it in your own time, but I'll read it aloud just for the purpose of this video. So I said that I wasn't sure it was posted anywhere else, and that maybe no one was as crazy as I am. And the too long didn't read was, Fen'Harel seeks Fenris-style markings, but they're red lyrium. Fenris returns in Dragon Age 4 to help us. Blight caused. And for a more in-depth summary of my theory, I was thinking about Tevinter Nights, which I had finished reading the day I wrote this. I hadn't got around to reading it until recently. And I remembered something stuck with me. It was the mention of House Daenerys acquiring the Red Lyrium Idol from an agent of Fen'Harel in Kirkwall, I think it was Kirkwall, in exchange for information. I was then thinking about all the theories I've seen circulating social media and Discord about how much Fenris could come back as a companion in Dragon Age 4. My personal feeling would be that would be really cool. I didn't like Fenris that much initially in Dragon Age 2, but I think the plot devices that he provides and the insight into the Tevinter slavery and things like that are really interesting. So I would really like for Fenris to come back as a companion. I think he could be a really interesting guy to have around, especially in Tevinter, and especially with working with the Magisters. So he's pegged as this potential companion in Dragon Age 4. And in Dragon Age 2, he's got these Lyrium markings, as we all know, that provide him special powers. I think Lyrium Ghost is one of them. I think it makes him maybe stronger, or can cure him. I'm not entirely clear. I can't really remember. I've only played Dragon Age 2 once, but I'll double check that for sure. And I was wondering, if Fen'Harel wants this Red Lyrium Idol, what could he want it for? And I thought, in exchange for information from House Daenerys, what does House Daenerys know that another Magister or anyone else in Thedas does not know? And the only thing I could think of was how to imbue Lyrium into the skin of someone else to give them additional powers, additional strength, like Fenris. So I was wondering, is Solus seeking to undergo the same Lyrium infusion thing that Fenris has? And was that the information he was buying from Daenerys? Except he intends to use the Red Lyrium Idol for his markings to give him even more power, the power he needs to destroy the world and lift the veil. I feel like if he could just use Lyrium, he would have done already. So there's something about this Red Lyrium Idol that Solus wanted, and the only thing I can think of is that it just is a more powerful, a more potent version of Lyrium. So is he trying to imbue himself with those Lyrium markings to provide himself the extra battery power he needs to tear down the veil? And I'm thinking about the decision we made in Trespasser, where we could either redeem Solus or kill him. And I wonder if that decision will play a role in how we deal with what he's doing with the Lyrium Idol. Do we try and save him? Perhaps we use regular Lyrium to cure him of the Red Lyrium markings. Perhaps we try and kill him. Maybe Fenris knows a way to undo the markings at all. Then I was thinking maybe Volta's knowledge, or the knowledge that Titans gave us in the Descent, could help us with that. We're told that Lyrium is alive, and we know that, for example, Fiona was cured of the Blight. We know that the hero of Ferelden would have had the taint from being a Grey Warden, but doesn't hear the call Corypheus makes to all the Grey Wardens of Thedas in Inquisition. I saw a theory that perhaps because the hero had handled the Urn of Sacred Ashes, they had been cured of the Blight and therefore didn't hear the call. I'm thinking, if that's one way to cure the Blight, maybe there are other ways. So if Solus is seeking to use the Red Lyrium, the Blighted Lyrium, in order to become more powerful, maybe we try and counteract that with regular Lyrium. I think it would be cool. I mean, the way I thought about it for sure was kind of like all the promo and all the advertisements for Star Wars, especially the last 3 films. You've got sort of Rey and her blue lightsaber and Kylo Ren and his red lightsaber, and it provides this really awesome looking contrast of sort of, again, it's the classic lightly dark that you find in fantasy. But I thought maybe instead it's a light blue Lyrium and a red Lyrium for your light and dark. I think Solus would look really cool with Red Lyrium markings. I think Fenris looks really cool with them too. It's a really cool concept, and I'm surprised we haven't met anyone else with those sorts of markings. And I'm wondering, if you try and abuse the power that's in the Red Lyrium Idol like that, and if we assume that Red Lyrium is somehow connected to the Blight, maybe that would kick off another Blight? I mean, maybe an old god is awoken, or Darkspawn can sense that amount of blighted power, and they're drawn to the surface that way. So I was wondering, maybe Solus inadvertently causes a Blight trying to tear down the Veil, and I don't think he'll either succeed in tearing down the Veil, but it won't destroy us, or he won't succeed at all. I don't think it can go either. I don't think it can go any other way. I don't think he can tear it down and successfully kill us all. I think that BioWare's probably got a couple more games in it yet. It would wrap up the Red Lyrium Idol storyline really nicely if we could just deal with that once and for all. And it would also wrap up Solus' story quite nicely, or at least his quest to tear down the Veil. But it would also leave the Dragon Age universe open for another game. We could then deal with the consequences of this Blight in Dragon Age 5 and beyond. I suspected that perhaps that would involve the Wardens at Weishaupt making an appearance. So just to sort of basically verbalize what I was tweeting when I posted this, because it was kind of a verbal diarrhea, I guess. I was thinking maybe the Red Lyrium battle between him and Fenris, Solus' attempt to bend Red Lyrium to his will, in the same way that he inadvertently sent Arlathan into the Fade. It's another theory for another time, I guess. Will force a sixth Blight to occur and awaken an old god. The next EA game, or the expansion of Dragon Age 4, we will see us seeking help from the Wardens with this. At that point, the Wardens Griffons, and we know that they got them. If you've read The Last Flight, I hope you think that they got them. They should be nearly fully grown, and perhaps even at breeding age, but that's very far into the future. I also wondered if perhaps Solus would try and get support from other factions in his quest to tear down the Veil. Perhaps he asks the Qunari, despite the fact they've never been known to team up with anyone. He obviously has the elves on side. We're told at the end of Trespasser that the elves will disappear, and I can only assume they go off to find him, or they all congregate somewhere. Kind of a civil war, if you will, between elves and everyone else. So on one side we have Solus, the elves, and maybe even the Qunari, versus everyone else. The Inquisition, for sure. Our Dragon Age 4 protagonist, for sure. Maybe the Titans could join us. Maybe we ask the Dwarves at Ozmar. I'm just thinking Origins style, where you have to visit these different famous factions of Thedas and ask them to help you. And I guess depending on their approval of you, they can either say yes or no. And for every faction you fail to recruit, maybe it's a faction Solus gains. And at the end, when you have to fight him, and I'm really hoping we get to fight him, I feel like most fans either want to save him and, rescue our romanced elf, or they want to decapitate him. I want to punch you in the face, but I'm willing to hear you out camp. So I'm just thinking, at the end of Dragon Age 4, if or when we finally confront Solus, our success is dictated by how many factions we were able to get on side. And it would kind of, to me, look like some sort of Captain America Civil War style thing, some showdown between once was friends, now enemies, and the people that they could surround themselves with for that fight. Anyway, this got super off track. So going back to the screenshot, and the reason I brought it up was, again, as I say, someone thought this perhaps looked like a person in some sort of Red Lyrium. I described it as a cocoon. When I tweeted about this, a few of you would have seen it. I said, please tell me Solus is in a Red Lyrium cocoon and releases the Blight in the process. Because that would be cool if he's got the idol, and in the same sort of way we see Meredith at the end of Dragon Age sort of disintegrate into this Red Lyrium husk. Maybe the same is happening with Solus, but what Meredith lacked was the magical knowledge and the knowledge of the Fade to protect herself from that corruption. Maybe Solus has gone into this with the right protections in place so that he can survive this form, and he comes out of this with his Red Lyrium markings, even more empowered than he was before to tear down the Veil. But unbeknownst to him, it's caused another blight. And I know a few people asked me, why would he do that? He's not Corypheus, he doesn't take joy in doing any of this. I don't think he causes the blight on purpose. I think this is either him being ignorant of the consequences of trying to use the Red Lyrium Idol in this way, or he just doesn't care. I don't think the latter's very likely. He comes across as this guy who will only do as much evil as is necessary. So I wonder if this is an experiment gone wrong, or at least he has succeeded in his objective of having more power and being imbued with the Lyrium markings, but at a grave cost, and a cost he did not predict. And instead of his quest to lift the veil and release the Fade and destroy our world as we know it, instead he has to help us fix the mess he has caused here by releasing the Blight. I think that would be really cool, because it would be kind of like having the Anders Justice style companion, except maybe one controls the other, or maybe he's an unwilling participant, or we see a Solus that was very different to Solus in Dragon Age Inquisition. He comments about how he's the only person in the Inquisition who's there voluntarily. He's, friendly. He's painting frescoes for you in Skyhold. This guy wants to be here and he wants to help. Maybe this Solus does not want to help, but feels like he has to. Or if he doesn't, he can't achieve his goals. So we've got kind of a companion who is not a friend, who is a rival. And actually that would be a really interesting way of reintroducing the rivalry system to Dragon Age 4. So that's what I think perhaps the husk in the middle is. If we're not looking at a Titan, Heart, or a Guardian, maybe we're looking at a person in some sort of Lyrium hellscape cage, being imbued with the power to destroy the world. And just a bit more on where we are in this. Again, the buildings look very similar in architectural style to those of Ferelden. It looks like, actually to me, it looks like Skyhold. I noticed the wall at the top centre kind of looks like that section of wall that's always broke as you enter the war room. It always lets in the sunlight there. The only problem with that theory is that the windows, I think, are slightly too small. But I'll put up a compare to let you make up your own mind. But that's the first thing I saw, because even the way the wall is broken off is kind of similar in pattern, and so the corner of the building in the top right of this screenshot could look like an external wall of Skyhold. And perhaps the stairs at the bottom of the screenshot are the stairs down in the Undercroft. Or another area that we didn't know about, or perhaps where the prison is, the jail is, that sort of thing. And it would be really interesting if Solus has gone to the place where the veil was created, and I think that there's a fair amount of evidence to suggest that Skyhold is where the veil was created. If he has gone to that place to remove the veil, and that would make sense, it's where the veil is weakest. And that's where he's taken the Red Lyrium Idol. He's gone back to Skyhold. But in his quest, he's destroyed Skyhold, it looks like. I mean, he's not done it any favours. And he's released this Blight out of Skyhold. That would be really interesting for me. I think we're looking at Skyhold. It could be any number of other Ferelden buildings. It could be, Redcliffe Castle. It could be Caer Bronach, I suppose. But Skyhold would mean something. That's a meaningful place for it to be. And I would be really interested to see if that's where we're going. At least not for a long time, but just for the purposes of this part of his story. So this video got much longer than I anticipated it would be. I think probably because I've filled 15 minutes or something with crazy theories. So going back to Dragon Age 4 and away from all of my wild theories, these screenshots to me ask more questions than they answer. At the end of Trespasser, we're at the war table with all of our advisors, and our one-armed Inquisitor sticks a knife in Tevinter, and I thought it was basically confirmed that we were going to Tevinter. That would make a lot of sense. And yet, in these screenshots we've got, it's almost exclusively Ferelden Buildings. There's what looks like a Blight, there's Red Lyrium, we might be at Skyhold, we might be at Castle Redcliffe. What are we doing in Ferelden? And I can't help but wonder two things. One, do we have our expectations for Dragon Age 4 really wrong and we're not going anywhere near Tevinter? Or is this game going to be so massive that you could start in Ferelden for maybe, I don't know, if a game's 100 hours, let's say Ferelden's the first 10, 15, and is Tevinter going to be the other 90 or 85? This is crazy to me. I can't work out why we've got screenshots of Ferelden when we thought we were going to Tevinter. So I guess what I'm hoping for, I had prepared myself to go to Tevinter. I hadn't necessarily been that interested in going, but like Tevinter Nights suggests heavily that that's where all the action's going to be, and yet here we are looking at this Blight in Ferelden. I think it would be really awesome if the game starts with Solus making this Era of Judgment and releasing this Blight. That would be really interesting if right off the bat, straight away, we were plunged into, basically a Blight. It kind of sounds like Origins when I say it like that. And then perhaps Tevinter follows, or are we looking at the end of Dragon Age 4? And that all of the things we get up to in Tevinter ultimately might mean a lot to us and to Solus, but mean very little to the rest of Thedas, where a Blight has broken out. I'd be really interested to hear what you think about the screenshots, about what's coming in DA4. I really, really hope we get a trailer or an update or a title or a teaser, just something. I know, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. We've just had 3 really interesting clips and we could dissect these for hours and hours and hours, and we will. But something concrete would be amazing, because at the moment I feel less sure about what we were going to get up to in DA4 than I did yesterday. So I'm going to wrap up because this is already super long. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please subscribe if you enjoy my videos. I'm going to try and upload more frequently, get some theories out there, get some gameplay, that sort of thing. So stay healthy, stay home, and I'll see you soon.